On this episode of Power Couples,
one of the tenets of our practice is we never tell any patient to do something we don't do.
Dr. Allen and Jeanne Peters discuss running a successful medical practice together in the later years of life. Meet Jeanne Allen. He's a medical doctor with over 25 years of ER experience, and she's a dietitian. They've been married for 32 years, and they have 3 kids, 3 grandkids, and 4 chickens. They also own and operate Nourishing Wellness Medical Center in Redondo Beach, California, where they specialize in healthy aging and culinary medicine.
So I was working as a dietitian at Kaiser Permanente in Harbor City, and I had been working there for about a year and a half. And on a Saturday morning, I had an accident. Somebody hit me from behind, and I needed to go to the emergency room. And when I did, I was waiting, and Dr. Peters is the one that walked in to go ahead and treat me.
I looked across the room and I saw Jeanne, and it was absolute love at first sight. I mean, people talk about that. It is so real, and it's still real to this very day. And I turned to my technician and said, I think I'm in love. So I walked over and opened the door, and there she was. And I'm telling you, this, I was 39 years old, and I got weak knees. I mean, I got such weak knees that, I was the chief of the emergency department, right? 39-year-old guy, right? And I was all of a sudden like a teenager again, It was just instant. And I pulled myself together enough to go and do a professional exam.
God, yeah, right.
Oh, where does it hurt? So.
Meanwhile, I'm getting sweat on my upper lip, I'm getting hot. So there was a chemistry that was there.
Amazing chemistry.
6 months later, Dr. Allen decided it was finally time to propose.
So I asked her to marry me, right? So after 6 months now, I've 6 seconds and I was done, right? So at 6 months, it's like her answer, I think I will.
I'm not very decisive.
You think you will? What does that mean?
Before starting their business together, Jeanne and Allen both had separate careers. He as an ER doctor, and she as a dietitian.
I had been in business. I had ran my own private practice for many years. I had worked for corporations. I worked for the Health and Tennis Corporation. I helped to put 67 Richard Simmons Anatomy Asylum clubs. I put dietitians into them. So I had done a lot of work that actually took me away from the house a lot. But what I always loved most when I was working in business, I loved the idea of being able to be my own boss and also really be able to help people, particularly around healthy eating. That was how I could help people develop a greater sense of vitality and energy. Came out of my own issues that I had had from working and going into burnout and adrenal fatigue and that. Didn't know about that at the time, but I knew that I had through my business. At the same time, Allen had been chief, for how many years?
Well, yeah, we're fast forwarding here now, 25 years, so the 25-year interim there was me mainly as an ER doctor.
And chief
of the emergency department, which I did step down from because it was just too much. Because as a chief, you were expected to do all the work too, of the regular doctor, but also run the department. But I had gone through a fairly serious burnout. When I was 50, in my early 50s, I was really starting to burn out badly. So by 56, I was really done. And so I took about 18 months off. But I went back and I started getting a little burned out again, even though I was in better shape physically and emotionally. But Jeanne was the one that suggested about 8 years or so ago, says, why are you doing this, and getting burned out again?
Let's do this together.
Let's do this together.
Yeah, we both have had so much that we learned through our own processes of going through kind of burnout and then, looking at what do we need to restore. We thought we could really make this our focus. We could make how to age well, how to deal with your hormones that are out of balance, whether they're their thyroid or sex or stress hormones, your metabolic. We knew that we could do things because we had seen what we had done for ourselves and it worked. And we thought, wow, this is just the basis of a good business. We could do this.
Despite achieving tremendous success in their individual careers, Jeanne and Allen still experienced fear and uncertainty after making the decision to start their own business together.
So, it was, of course, it's a bit of anxiety provoking, and, we had, when you go into Kaiser, the people are waiting for you by the dozens. Right? You go and open your own practice, there's nobody waiting for you. The only thing that's waiting for you is the bill for the money you just borrowed, which is significant, in order to start a practice. And so, it was definitely, a big challenge. And I had to kind of get over that little bit of a fear-based thing, even though most of the time I'm a little bit more out in front of Jeanne, but this time she was really kind of out in front of me. And I really do, I'm glad that I listened to her because, of course it took a couple of years to really get going, but, we've had thriving practice for almost 8 years now.
One of the keys to the success of Nourishing Wellness is that Dr. Allen and Jeanne practice what they preach.
One of the tenets of our practice is we never tell any patient to do something we don't do. We don't have expectations of others that we don't have of ourselves. The core of our business is exactly like the core of our private lives. So there's no separation there. We get up, we bike to work, we work out a little bit more, we see our patients, we talk to our patients about what we do. We, of course, do extensive medical evaluation of patients, which is a big part of the practice, obviously. But the core, our core belief system, our core commitments is the same to ourselves, to each other, to our family, to the environment, to the planet, to our chickens, to our friends, and to our patients.
There's certain things that we just know it's a rhythm, and if we get into that rhythm, then that carries us forward. And when we get out of that rhythm, like when we've had disruptions to the rhythms of the business, it really does disrupt our personal energy. And so I think that's a key piece, rhythms and rituals. I think there's certain rituals that we just expect, like, making breakfast in the morning, taking our workout, getting to work, so that we've really taken care of ourselves before we even see our patients. And then we don't overbook ourselves, so that we made that really key, because he worked in a business where you never knew when the next patient was going to come, and they were coming.
5 patients.
And they were coming like
Or
this,
10.
So, we thought, well, we'll have so many patients in the morning, we'll take a break for lunch. So I think it's that sense of self-care that's really important. And the deep foundation, again, is that commitment to health.
Another key factor in their success is that Jeanne and Allen have created a business that works with the lifestyle they choose to have at this time in their lives.
I honestly think it's the business model is a sustainable business model. So when we come back, we're not depleted. We didn't always live this way, we didn't always live this way. I mean, we did not, this is just a stage that I would say is really because the business model is a sustainable business model in which we've made it that way. So when we're coming back home, we don't feel depleted. We're not getting back at 7 o'clock. We're getting back at an hour. Sometimes we do, but for the most part, we go with the seasons. When it's summer, we'll stay at the office a little bit later, and when it's winter, we want to get on our bikes and be home by 5 before it's dark. So I think it's partly because of that business model being something in which we've set it up that way, so that we have energy. How many years did we go through where we came back thinking, oh God, who's going to cook tonight? Jeez.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore.
It doesn't happen anymore. So it's a different time in our lives too.
What I appreciate most about Jeanne, first of all, it's a long list. I can't just say one thing, but I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world, because seriously, I really do. And it's it's a lot because of Jeanne. It's a lot because I have 3 wonderful sons too, and wonderful practice and health and all that. But this I'm kind of embarrassed her, but I feel she has almost a saintly.
Oh God.
I know. A way of being.
I do remind him I did want to be a nun when I was 12.
I'm
But
so
every
glad.
girl in Catholic school, at least at one point, wanted to be a nun.
That would have been such a waste. Oh, I'm so glad. So I'm so glad she didn't become a nun. But she has this almost, like I said, saintly outlook on forgiveness. It's just amazing, And sometimes they don't even deserve it.
You're right. You're true. You don't deserve it a lot of the times.
No, not a lot of the times. Everybody deserves forgiveness. That's what you learned. You know? But she practices it, you know, and just an amazing way. And so I think just that emotional intelligence, and you know, that just carries over. She's virtually always up. I mean, it really takes a lot to get Jeannie down, and so those two things are so positive. It's just one of the reasons it just keeps that chemistry just bubbling, you know, because of the fact that I'm around that, you know, and I do appreciate it so much. Now, top that. I know you're not going to say I'm saintly.
I know.
I try not
There's
to
a
be.
reason why we flow really well together.
Definitely try not to be saintly.
No, he's got his qualities. I mean, Alan, you know, he's the person that's a man of his word. I mean, I always had a great sense that, you know, I could really trust him. You know, if he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And I really appreciated that. I love that security. And knowing that, you know, he's just an amazing father. I mean, I just fell in love with him when I saw the way he fathered his kids. You know, he still is like an amazing dad, just amazing granddad. And, you know, he's a romantic. He's way more romantic than I am. He loves to plan things to make things special. Like, he gives proofs of love, always. And he's really good about that, way better than I am. And I really appreciate that. Every day he brings me my little plate with my eggs on it, and he wants to know, this is made special for you. And he really means it. It really is. So, I mean, God, what's not to love about that? You know?
And what about the potential added stress that a lot of people expect may come from working so closely with your spouse?
When we weren't in business together, it was actually more stressful for us because
Very good point.
I had, you know, when I worked for a corporation, I mean, I was on a plane and in a different city, and you know, we had to organize childcare, and he's working 24 hours or 36 hours in the emergency room, and I'm on a plane and maybe not going to be home for 3 days, and we have to figure out how we're going to get our kids to this sport. And I mean, it was stressful. So part of it is that these last 8 years, I mean, this has been a really rich time in our lives where we've been able to see what didn't work. And then that's why we made our business so clear about how we wanted to set it up.
If you have jobs where you're not working together, there is tremendous amount of potential stress there, you know, and so it's like kind of an interesting question to us, because it's like, why would you think there's going to be more conflict when you're working together than if you're working separately, where there's, you know, potential tremendous conflict with schedules? I think the only conflicts is sometimes when I would like to get out of the office and then Jeannie is still working there, you know? So it's the opposite of what people would think. It's like, oh my God, if you guys spend all this time together, you're going to kill each other, right? No, it's like, Jeannie, you know, I want to spend more time with you, but not necessarily sitting at the desk and you know. But so that's about the, you know, the only conflict that, you know, significant conflict that we have, which is the opposite of what people initially thought we might have.
And what do Jeanne and Alan think is the best thing about working so closely together?
There's a comfort that I have. I mean, one of the things that why I really wanted to go into business with Alan was because there were things that I just had an intuitive sense about how somebody could how I could help them heal that I couldn't do if I was just working as a dietitian in private practice. I saw the limitations of that. I had lived through it. So having somebody that was excited about wanting to like test for things and run labs, and I mean, we could actually make this what we wanted to. I mean, it was our creative interest that came together. So I love the fact that he's very receptive. You know, if I've got an idea and I'm thinking, oh, I'd really like to incorporate this testing into our practice, I think this could really be helpful. I mean, I couldn't necessarily do that as a dietitian alone, but he has given me, you know, the confidence to say, let's go ahead and add it in. And this isn't our business. We can make it exactly what we want it to be, and yet still know that we're really helping to support others.
Yeah, I think it's a mutual support. You know, it's like Jeanne said. I mean, Jeanne suffered under trying to get other doctors to keep up with her in terms of her knowledge base and the breadth of knowledge, because we're so pharmaceutically oriented. I think it's a tragedy, you know, the way the mainstream medicine is practiced in this country. And so that had always been very frustrating for Jeanne, because she knew a lot of stuff that she knew was the truth, was facts, was science, was based on studies. But the doctors, blindfolds, right? And so it was very frustrating for her.
Well, there's a lot of creativity and there's a lot of problem solving. Like a lot of times, it really is two heads are better than one. I mean, sometimes, Alan will look at this chart and he'll think, I just don't know what's going on, and I'll take a look at it and something will come into my brain. It's like sometimes we'll see things. So that's, to me, the creativity of running a business and running a business that's based on something that's so deep, that we so deeply value.
So what advice did Jeanne and Alan have about achieving success both in love and in business?
To have a successful marriage or to have a successful business, there is a certain core group of things that you not only have to just say them, you have to do them. And you have to go in with your eyes open, and you have
Eyes
to
wide open.
wide open in both aspects of that. And if you can make them work together, so much more of a blessing for your life. But I think you have to be extremely realistic. And if you have that combination of the reality and the creativity and the personality and the flexibility to know that there is going to be challenges and there's going to be gratitudes, there's going to be both, and you better go into it with your eyes wide open. But if you do that and you put all these things together as your foundation, I think many people out there could have, what we're extremely blessed to have. And as a combination of just an incredibly solid, exciting marriage and an incredibly exciting, solid business together. And so that's been, the blessing of our life. And, never in my life, even, if I can think back when I was half my age, 36 years old, if I could have said, if somebody would have told me that when my 72 would be one of the best years of my life, I would have said, you've got to be kidding me. When I was 36, 72-year-old people were really old, right? Well, because of this program, it's not really old, it's wise. I've been blessed to have, a fantastic partner and, like I said, fantastic family. The only regret I have, if you ask me what I would like to have that I know I can't have, 72 more years.
Okay, we can end it right there.